And hello, YouTube. It is 11:38 a.m. Sunday, April 24th, 2022. Good morning. I'm headed to the post office with an eBay run, which is something I haven't done in, well, definitely over a month. I've been so consumed with working for Amazon, this short-lived relationship with Crystal, which, wow, crazy bitch. That's where she lands on the scale at this point. I've been saying I was going to read some more of her text message. At this point, it's just become such low-hanging fruit. I tried to kind of reach out to her in a kind way yesterday and just, explain myself and try to figure out, what her issue was, like why she's so freaked out at me. And it's like, how do you figure I did something wrong? You flaked out on me. And so I went home alone. Anyway, I don't know. I might read those, I might not, but I got a bit of response. I think I mentioned that one. And then anyway, I kind of tried to more clearly explain myself. And wow, I got some text messages back from her. They actually came in while I was riding with my friend Chris out to the party last night at the really big house that has its own private urinal. And that was a fun time. I actually enjoyed that more than I thought I would have. It's and I should talk more about that because that's honestly more interesting than Crystal and her psychotic text messages at this point. But anyway, in case you didn't miss it, Ballard's been taken out over there. I know I got that on another video, but it was at night, so I can see a little better now in the daytime. Yeah, cars are destructive. What can I say? She wrote me a text back while I was in there, but I was having a good conversation with Chris and his wife April and her friend, who I've met several times and can never remember her damn name. Anyway, we were having a great conversation and just enjoying the ride, so I didn't really feel like looking at those incoming messages. I saw just enough in the pop-up notifications to just see that it was a bunch of shit. So, and I didn't look at them during the party either. Whatever. I was just focused on the people I was with, and at first I was really apprehensive about the party. It's rough for me, as much as I've been living in poverty and struggling with walking everywhere and finances, and not being sure if I'm going to be able to pay my rent, and just the relationship trauma of what I'm going through with Priscilla and how depressing that's been, and just everything that I've endured over the last, God, I want to say last 2 years, but I could just as easily say my entire life. It's not like I've ever really lived anything that could be defined as a life of luxury. So anyway, so it's kind of, sometimes I'm just intimidated and kind of frustrated just by somebody that has the privilege to be able to just drive down the road in a car like that, which is a privilege I haven't been able to enjoy in, 7 months now. So, so to be at a house that's worth, roughly $3 million with a giant, custom, just surrounded by insane amounts of wealth. At one point we're given a tour, and I'm, walked into a garage that has a 3-car garage that has better flooring than better quality flooring than my kitchen does. and more square footage than my entire apartment does. And like there's a brand new Rolls in there, you know, and that's the car he doesn't even really drive. And there, you know, just I forget how many vehicles were on the property. It was overwhelming being surrounded by that much wealth, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? You know, So, it's hard for me to relate to something like that. It made me feel a little intimidated. It made me feel a little uncomfortable. After a couple of drinks, it sort of eased up, and I was one of those moments where I realized that, God, in spite of all my issues, I somehow do have a lot of people that think highly of me, which, maybe I should think a little more highly of myself. But so the guy who owned the house, I introduced to me as Chappie, really cool dude. I mean, I had a great time, chatting with him, and great host, super hospitable. I mean, damn, fed me grilled steak and grilled crab legs, grilled lobster. No lobster. I'm sorry. It was all grilled crab. So crab legs in the center of the crab, which I don't know if I've ever ate that before. Like, I've had crab legs before, but these were just enormous and done really well. I don't know if the guy worked for him. It was just a friend of his, but the guy that was cooking was everybody was calling Mike, and then somebody said his name was Michelle. I hardly talked to that guy, but anyway, that guy was, it was awkward, but like everybody that I didn't know was like, "Oh, you're Dan the karaoke man." Everybody just speaks so highly of you. You're supposedly like the greatest at karaoke and blah blah blah. And that's actually the whole reason I was there, not to host karaoke, although that would have been awesome. I mean, certainly, what I charge for a private party, which is really comparatively not that much. Generally, I'll do a private party for $200-300. And that's where I bring literally everything but a TV. And obviously that was within Chappie's budget. But what I was asked to bring, actually, my friend Chris, who I guess works for Chappie now. I guess he's had a job with him for a while. And Chris and I haven't really been talking much in the last... Oh gosh, since Thanksgiving. I went to his place on Thanksgiving, and I think I vlogged about that. I vlogged the walk over there. I do remember that. And Thanksgiving was after I've been without a car, and certainly after the relationship with Priscilla and I had really fallen to shit. But and Priscilla's like besties with his wife, so. So consequently, I don't really spend much time with Chris and his wife anymore. Not like I used to. I mean, I used to go over there pretty regularly to watch movies and hang out. And him and his wife used to regularly come to my karaoke shows when I hosted at Castaways. And so anyway, I was unaware Chris had a new job, but he was talking about just how much he loves the job and how he's provided a really nice company truck. And like at one point we got stuck in traffic, and I had made a comment about, well, hey, why don't you use the Google Traffic View? I said, no, I wasn't looking at it because I've had mine on Transit View for quite some time. Traffic's not really my problem anymore. And I said, but it's pretty avoidable. And he just started laughing. He goes, I got a nice company provided truck. I'm paid by the hour. I'm paid good by the hour. He goes, it doesn't really matter to me how long it takes. I'm quite happy to just sit in traffic, which was good. Like, so many people get angry about sitting in traffic when it's, even at times when it's kind of to their advantage. I mean, granted, it would be better for Chappie's business if Chris wasn't sitting in traffic, but regardless, Chris is just like, I'm, don't care. He goes, hell, I might start looking at that so I can find ways to be stuck in traffic more. And he started laughing, and it was a moment. But anyway, so how I ended up getting to the party is Chris had called me totally out of the blue. Like, I don't think I've spoken to him on the phone in nearly a year. And I was at Bullock's on Friday. My usual thing, working on music, and I got there kind of late, mostly due to the which I mentioned in my vlogs, the traffic just going to complete hell complete hell, and just causing a meltdown with the bus system to the point where once I got onto the, after doing a crazy sprint trying to figure out where the fucking bus stop was to get on the 50, since they closed the bus stop there at 44th Street, and I'm really thankful that bus driver actually just like saw me frantically waving and running and was kind enough to pull over. I mean, he's not supposed to do that, and he didn't have to do that, and it's drivers like that do make the bus experience just a little less torturous. But I mean, I wasn't yelling at him per se. I was just out of breath. It was like, hey man, where is the bus stop? where am I supposed to go? Because it's all construction here. What the hell? Anyway, yeah, after I got on that bus, and I think I mentioned it in another vlog, like I tried to transfer to a 60. 60 should have been along in less than 10 minutes, and then I saw the 60 that was showing on the map was sitting over at 36th and 36th Street, just south of Camelback, which is where they camp out. I don't understand why it doesn't start the route there, so you can transfer to the 32. But, whatever. One of the many dysfunctions of the Valley Metro public transit system. But I saw it sitting there, and then it didn't show up, and I checked the app again, and there's still a bus sitting there, but suddenly it's been renumbered from a 60 to a 32, and there's just no 60 running, and there were no 60s. Just clearly there were no 60s coming to me. They were, and I feel like I've explained this once before, but yeah, it was just a complete, going into too much detail, it was just a complete clusterfuck. I ended up catching the next 50, which showed up pretty quick, but then that thing got stuck in traffic. It took an obscene amount of time to get from like 17th Avenue to 27th Avenue. That mile and a quarter, like I could have walked that mile and a quarter faster just because it was stuck in traffic so bad. And looking at the map, we had another Route 50 pass us, and then the one that I had got up, and then that one and the one I was on had caught up with the one that I had earlier gotten off with the driver that was kind enough to pick me up where there wasn't a stop because I couldn't find the damn stop. All three of us like pretty much hit 27th Avenue at the same time. And in the time it took for me to get from just the last half mile from 23rd Avenue to 27th Avenue, two different 27s passed and went north, missed them both. And again, like they were right after each other, and that's a bus that's only supposed to be going every 30 minutes. So yeah, just everything had gone to shit. And I did vlog the walk up 27th Avenue, most of it, up 27th Avenue to Bullocks. And anyway, so yeah, I got to Bullocks a little later than normal. I did get there before 5, didn't get my $1 tacos. Heather was super apologetic, but yeah, she said they sold out. Oh, and speaking of getting there, supposedly Jim was coming back, but I never saw him, and I left about 8 o'clock. There's been some conflict between me and one of the members of the band, and at this point, I'd just rather not even see him. He accused me of messing with his sound equipment, which, like, why would I even do that, right? And I hadn't. And then just straight up when I told him I didn't, and I had come up to help. I had come to help them, thinking if they were having some problems, maybe I could, get into my suitcase and pull out, some cables. Maybe the problem was a shorted cable. I've got all kinds of adapter cables. I'm here to help. And then he accused me of messing with his stuff, saying he had video showing me messing with stuff. I'm like, really? That's interesting. And yeah, I'd like to send that to me. I'd love to see that. And straight up calls me and he goes, well, I think you're lying. You're a liar. I'm like, really gonna fucking call me a liar, dude? Yeah, it was, I'm still waiting for my apology from him, but at this point, I just assume not even be there. But I did mention that I was needing to do something about the PA being messed up. So when I got in to start my show Thursday, yeah, I couldn't really get a balanced signal on the board, and I don't think that had to do with the speakers. Like, the more I'm thinking about that, I'm still confused as to what that was, and I never did resolve that. And I really don't think it was on my end. Might be a shorted out issue with their soundboard. The soundboard that's there at Bullock's it's in really rough shape, and it's really old, and it's not even really, for what is being done there with it, it's not even a really good board for that application. And what I was really hoping to do is kind of try to sell Jim on having me just completely revamp the PA system there and hopefully actually get paid for it. The last time I talked to his wife about like doing some stuff there, the best that I managed to get out of her, like I was kind of like hinting, and maybe I should have been more direct at what I wanted to do, but I was kind of hinting at, this needs done, and this. Well, I was explaining what needed done, and saying, I just need to know that I'm going to get paid for it. Can I invoice you out for this? And then she's like, oh, well, bring me the receipts for the cables. So she's offering to reimburse me, like, my costs for cables that I'm having to go obtain myself. when mind you, I don't have a vehicle, so I'm walking. Like, that's a lot of work. Or I'm paying to have them shipped or whatever. This is basically, it was like, oh, so you're expecting me to do a whole lot of work and I get paid for it. Yeah, so needless to say, that hasn't been done. So I kind of wanted to run it again through Jim and just, and see if I could get an agreed upon price of, hey, this is, this is what your PA needs, and let's figure out what's your budget to revamp the PA, because your PA is fucked up. So I know there's some problems with the mixer. I never fully figured out what the problems with the mixer was, but at one point, like after I started the show, and the whole back end of the dance floor, the speakers above the stage sounded just atrocious, to the point they were taking down, like the two speakers that did sound good, it overwhelmed the speakers that sound good, to the point where just everything sounded really bad. I pulled off the back. It's all mounted in a case, a road case, and so I took the thing off the back and went directly to the power amplifier and looked to see how the mixer feeds the power amplifier, which I've never looked at that before. It's connected, it works more or less, so no need for me to fuck with that. At this point, there was a need for me to fuck with that, so I pulled the back off, and so it's XLR cables. I didn't see where the output was from the mixer, but it's XLR cables going into the amp, and the amp is a pretty. I want to say it's a sound tech. It's a pretty average rack mount power amp. It's got options of either XLR or 1/4 inch input on each side, and then banana plugs for the connections out, which I think have adapters to 1/4 inch cables running to the speakers, and I think it's running. It's a 2-channel amp, but there's 4 speakers connected to it. Nothing wrong with the amp. I'm absolutely convinced there's nothing wrong with the amp. It's a sturdy old amp. Now, I say standard. That was kind of the way of doing it, 15, 20 years ago. Nowadays, in almost every environment that I'm in, including when I'm running my own stuff nowadays, what's usually done, go ahead and block the crosswalk there, dude. Oh, nice stop that you didn't make. God, I hate cars. So I hate the people that drive cars. Anyway, so what you call it? The people that drive cars that don't know how to stop at a stop sign. At this point, like every system I've seen put together for many years, and the way I run my own is using powered speakers. It's just easier that way. There's really no advantage to using passive speakers anymore. I mean, I'm sure they still sell them, but nowadays it's all about having a decent mixer and running XLR cords from your mixer to powered speakers. Amps are on the speaker. Set your amp level on the speaker. Control everything from your board. Bam. good to go. I mean, the only downside on that versus the original, the old school way of doing it with passive speakers is that you've got to have power run into your speakers, because power speakers usually not an issue. Anyway, yeah, this place is still using passive speakers. They're not such great speakers. Benz, which is a brand that Karaoke Now, the karaoke store, used to sell a lot of. To be honest, I've never really seen that brand outside of their store. Now, it is worth noting that that system was put together by my late friend who passed many years ago, probably passed by 8 years ago, Steve Lee. He put that system together. He completely sold it to them from Karaoke Now. He was one of the main guys that ran the store Karaoke Now. That's where I met him. And it was, I mean, that was a mixer that was one of the main mixers that they sold. That was the same model mixer that they used on most of their rental systems. And when people would hire them for karaoke system, for hosting, like that's what they had on their systems. It's not an awful board. It's a Voco Pro. It's a modular board. But that one that's over at Bullock's, it's just seen better days. And it's got a crossfader, which is great for DJing, like if you're spinning records. But yeah, at this point, it's problematic. Anyway, so yeah, I've never been impressed with the sound of Benz speakers. Now, these ones have always sounded okay, but I've always noticed that the EQ curves that are set on that board are just not EQ curves I would normally use, but I never really tweak them much because they seem to be where they're at, because that sounds okay. And up until last Thursday, it sounded okay. Not great, but it sounded okay. Anyway, Thursday sounded horrific. Now, let me clarify. The front of the house speaker sounded good. There's one at the back end of the main area of the bar, near the corner TV and then the bigger TV that I have my video connected to. And then there's one that actually sits on a tripod up behind me. I think it's a horrible place for it. I've mentioned it before, but it's just... yeah, it's a lot of work to move it, and I'm not trying to do a lot of work and not get paid. And at this point, like, I don't even, it's so much work for me to just get over there and find the time to get over there. And since starting the job at Amazon, I just really don't have that time. So, yeah, it is what it is. It is where it is. Anyway, that speaker sounded fine. They've got two that are in this, like, custom enclosure above the stage. And it's an okay placement for them, I guess. Anyway, those ones were the ones that sounded terrible. And I thought it was a problem with the board. So what I was doing, and the reason I took the case off and went to the back of the amp, was I was bypassing the amplifier. And I went rummaged through my bag, because I've got quite a few different cables, and found a couple of XLR cables that I could connect that were long enough to get from one of the XLR outputs from my board, which I don't even use there. When I'm running there, I run from 2 1/4-inch balanced outputs, which I'm using as unbalanced, through adapters to RCA, and then I've got a long RCA cable that runs up to an RCA line input on the mixer that has sometimes been a little tricky to get to work, but generally works just fine, and it's accessible, and it allows me to just make minimal use of that mixer other than setting my levels and then do everything from my mixer, which is really nice Mackie. Anyway, so yeah, my XLR is free, so I figured I'd just take one of those inputs and run it up to the, and also the way this is set up, it's a stereo board that doesn't have a mono option, and as odd as that bar is shaped, a mono sound system would sound best, just because it's not a nice square box even room. Like a mono mix, a mono PA would sound best, but it is fully stereo. The board has no mono option whatsoever, no simple switch to bridge it, and ditto for the amp, I think. But anyway, they've got 2 speakers running on the right channel and 2 speakers running on the left channel. And for whatever crazy reason, the 2 that are on the right channel, and of course the only person who can answer that is like, why is it like this? The only person that can answer that is Steve Lee. been dead for years. I'm not getting an answer to why. It just is what it is. I got to deal with it. So yeah, the speaker that's up above me on the tripod behind me, behind the DJ booth area, and then the one that's on a tripod at the back end of the bar, those are both on the right channel. The two above the stage are both in the left channel. I've tried running a blended mono mix to it, but for some reason, a lot of things come out sounding muffled when I do it like that. In most instances, that really works, but for whatever reason, when I've been doing that at Bullocks, I don't get good results. So, and I think it could be to do, my theory is that maybe something is out of phase in, not in my equipment. I don't think there's anything wrong with my equipment, but I do believe might be something out of phase in in their setup somewhere, most likely in that Voco Pro mixer. Because when something's out of phase and you try to blend it, you end up canceling out sounds, and it's problematic. So I've been having to run a full stereo mix in this room with speakers that are placed where they're not at all conducive to a stereo mix, sounding good. And suddenly I got everything in the left channel sounding like absolute ass. So I'm kind of blending it down, and so I run the XLR cable directly to the power amp. There are gains, for each channel of the power amp on the front of it. So I don't mess with the one on the right. It's set, how it's set. I turn the left one all the way down because I don't know, where my level is going to be compared to what their level is. I'm not trying to scare everybody with super loud music. I figure I can gradually bring it up and get it to a level that matches. Anyway, I bring it up to a level that's lower, because if I matched it, the whole mix would have sounded terrible. But I bring it up a little bit, and it becomes very clearly apparent that at this point, I'm not going through the mixer. There's nothing being colored or lost due to their mixer. I'm going straight from my mixer, which has a totally clean, great sounding output, to their power amp, which presumably is just fine. And there is no high end in those speakers at all. It definitely sounded better. It was a decided improvement, if for no other reason than I was using the gain on the amp, and I was able to back the level off to where it didn't overwhelm the speakers that sounded good. But as far as I can tell, and let's just say nothing of the problems that the mixer still has, as far as I can tell, the tweeters have been completely blown. I didn't do it, and I got a feeling this is going to turn into a whole bunch of finger pointing blame game, and I get the feeling I'm going to get blamed for it, since I'm the one that's there the least, and the one that's there that's the newest out of everybody that's involved in entertainment at Bullocks, which is frustrating because I think I'm the most technically competent. But anyway. I don't want to blame Gary. I don't know. He's not the only person that uses that PA. He's the one that uses it the most. I did mention it to the bartender, Sean, and he said, "Oh yeah, it has been so damn loud." I'm like, on my nights, it goes every night. So I know that I don't drive it at a level that was going to damage those tweeters. I know that. And to be fair, those tweeters might have just gone out because they're freaking old. It might not have been an issue of them being overdriven. They might have just given up because they're old. But regardless, those tweeters are dead. And those speakers without them sound like absolute shit. And what I ended up doing was I just ran it like that, with the direct feed going to those, turned way down, just enough to just bring just enough sound into the room that it wasn't a dead spot, and just, get most of my sound from the two speakers that sounded good, and I was blending it mono the best that I could. It didn't sound awful, but it didn't sound anywhere up to the par of what I like my shows to sound like. So supposedly Sean left a message for Jim, the owner of the bar, I don't have his number anymore. It was in my iPhone, which was stolen from me. It's not on this phone. It's not on my the only two phones I have left, because not that I use the Samsung that the crazy chick stole from me. So that's a kind of a non-issue. But anyway, the two phones I am using, Obama Phone 1 and Obama Phone 3, neither of them have Jim's number. You know, I rode across town with him the week before. Like, it's on me that it didn't occur to me to say, hey, Jim, you know what? Since this whole ordeal with my phone, I don't have your number. Can I get your number again? Like, it didn't occur to me. That's my bad. But it doesn't change the fact that I don't have Jim's number. And anyway, Sean said he'd leave a note for him when I got there, because I really wanted to discuss the issue with the PA and figure, and be like, hey, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to try to patch together what is here to sound as good as it's capable of sounding at this point? Or, do you want to kind of maybe do a deal with me where I completely revamp your sound system? Because I think that's what you need. At the very least, just discuss it with him. And, I don't think he ever came back. Or if he did, nobody bothered to tell me when he did. Heather said she expected him back soon and she would tell him to go talk to me. Yeah, I just ended up, I wasn't feeling super talkative. I'd got a bunch of really negative text messages at that point from Crystal, where she'd basically broken up with me on the way as I was on the bus, dealing with bus dysfunctions on the way there. So, yeah, I just was focused on working on my music. I had to get 3 songs added for karaoke, as well as an MP3 and a couple music videos. The first big hit from Mint Condition, which I had somebody sing, and I purchased a karaoke version specifically for them. I'm trying to think what the other 2 songs are. One is from a band I'd never heard of before. It's kind of an indie soul band. And my friend Garfield from Amazon turned me on to. He said he really wanted to sing it, but then when he came to my show, not last week, but the week before, he ended up singing something else. But I prepared the song for him, and I made a point to add that to my library. Freaking cool song. I don't see anybody else looking to sing it, but that's something interesting, to put into my catalog. And I'm glad I took it. It was a little more time consuming than normal because the karaoke version was not based on the version of the song that I expected it would be based on. What most people I think would consider to be the normal version of the song is the version that's on their been released as a single, and it's also on their debut album, which pretty sure I downloaded that and converted it into an MP3. And then I play the karaoke track and it sounds nothing like that. I'm like, ooh, this is going to be complicated. Did a search for the song again. And when you do a search for the song on YouTube, and bear in mind that YouTube is the way a really large portion of the population listens to music at this point, especially when we're talking about discovering new music. Certainly, I feel more people listen to music just off YouTube than purchase records and CDs and cassettes at this point. Oh yes, that album has been released on cassette. Found that out looking it up on Discogs. Anyway, when you do a search for that artist and title of song, the number one hit on YouTube, and the one that's got by far the most views on YouTube, is a live in studio version. So it's a live version, but it's not like in front of a concert setting. It's just live in a room in New York. I forget the name of the studio that it's in, but it's a live performance video. But the version it's got a very completely different sound than the studio version from the album, and it was recorded a couple of years later. And anyway, that's what the karaoke version is based on. The karaoke version is a dead-on rendition, minus vocals of that version. So I reflected it in the database as such. Again, I don't think too many people are going to sing it, but I just like to have the information in my karaoke database and my songbook DB to be accurate. So, there was a third song that I added. Now I can't for the life of me remember what it was. And working on downloads and stuff, but yeah, I never did get around to talking to Jim. At some point, I just realized, I don't have time to talk to Jim. I don't have time to. It doesn't seem right for me to improvise something completely different with this without getting the go-ahead from Jim. So I just put everything back the way it was, which is, sounded terrible and Yeah, Gary can deal with it on Sunday, I guess. I get the feeling that it's probably been like that for most of last week, and Gary's not a sound person, so I'm sure to him it's just fine. But, and problematic for me. Anyway, I've been standing here at the post office for a while. I need to get inside and ship my orders. I can't believe it's been a month to the day since one of these orders came in. So yeah, all 3 orders late, one of them very late. I'm shocked that the person has not wrote me asking, hey, where the hell is my 45? But the order came in when I was in Oregon, and it's just become the farthest thing from my mind. The other 2 CDs were sold pretty recently, so I mean they're still a little late going out, but not unreasonably late, and they're all going out within the week, so I'm okay with those. But anyway, I do want to write some apology messages to those guys about it. Anyway, thanks for coming with me on the walk. I'm sure this is probably boring content to most anybody, because who really cares about the PA at Bullock's other than me, but just wanted to get all these thoughts out of my head and recorded somewhere.